right. And with that, let's get started, shall we? It's about time. So today, of course, we're talking about procedures, the procedures module within MaintainX and SOPs within the real world. We're going to be going over what is a procedure, give you some definitions. We will talk about creating procedures. We will talk about linking procedures and work orders. And of course, we'll talk about that intersection of procedures and reporting. A reminder, everything in MaintainX comes back to reporting, so you get the insights that you're looking for. And of course, the best bit at the very end, please stick around for our Q&A session. We will be answering your questions live at that point. So it's a really good time to stick around for some FAQs and just some kind of, tips on how to apply the knowledge that we're talking about in today's session. Something else exciting we have going on this time as well. We will be giving away gift cards. We have 15 $25 gift cards to give to you that you can be spent at a variety of different vendors, your choice. We'll be giving those out at the end, and I will tell you more details as we get there. So make sure to stick around if you would be interested in a gift card. Who doesn't love money? I do. FAQs here to start us off. Is it being recorded? Yes, as I mentioned, it will be recorded. We will send you a link in an email on August the 2nd. Please do feel free to save that and review it at any time. Secondly, how can you ask questions throughout the webinar? Don't feel like you have to hold them right to that end section. Submit your questions at any time using the chat or the Q&A panel in the Zoom console. Highly recommend the Q&A module if possible. It's just easier to keep track of everything. We may answer the question live at the end if it's something that comes up frequently, or of course we have our wonderful support team on the line here today, or a subsection of it, who will be answering those questions as we go in the Q&A box as well. So keep an eye on that. All right, let's get going. A little bit about MaintainX to kick us off. Our mission is to transform the way frontline professionals manage the equipment and facilities that power our world. We are building for the long term, pushing innovations in mobile workflows, real-time analytics, and open APIs. And we partner with our customers. We have a world-class team here that develops and supports our products with industry expertise in manufacturing, facilities, and more. And if that overview wasn't quite enough, we've popped just a couple of awards we have recently on that right-hand side. Really happy to be a leader in many categories. Take a look at G2, take a look at Capterra, take a look at GPI, and see what customers are saying for yourselves. Ooh, there we go. Industry-leading companies trust MaintainX with their operations. You'll see some names on here that use MaintainX. Some may be familiar to you, I'm sure. But something I always like to remind you here, MaintainX has a place for everyone. Anyone doing any kind of maintenance work can find use with MaintainX. Whether you are a big multinational corporation or a small mom and pop shop, any scale, we are happy to have you and happy to help you and serve you as best we can. So let's get into it. First up, we have a poll. What percentage of your facilities maintenance work has an associated SOP? So that is standard operating procedure, the template you use to get your work done. Is it a quarter? Is it around about, a half? Are we looking 3/4? Or are we looking pretty much all of your work has an associated procedure? And there we go. We have some results in. So interesting. Not many defined standard operating procedures so far. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some important things here. We're going to talk about why it's important to have procedures. What is a procedure? And then how to incorporate those within MaintainX. There is nothing wrong with being in the bottom quarter of those options so far, because we're going to talk to you today about how you can build this up. We have a lot of tools to help, as always. So firstly, let's define a procedure. A procedure is a set of instructions for how to complete a task safely and efficiently. In maintenance, procedures can pertain to tasks such as safety, calibration, cleaning, inspections, or even responses to equipment failure. They're also referred to as standard operating procedures, or SOPs. They're designed to ensure consistency and quality of work execution. So that's great. It's good to know this. Every PM should have a procedure to go alongside it to tell us how to do it. But why? Firstly, let's look at equipment downtime. Between 10 to 20% of failures and accidents in industry are attributed to maintenance error. This can result in compliance violations also. In 2023, the number of OSHA citations reached nearly 18,000, with fines in excess of 75 million. So why do we need procedures here? Looking at equipment downtime, what causes those downtimes? Human error, maintenance error. If we can standardize how that work is done, we can make sure we're minimizing those. Compliance violations, we want to make sure that we're performing maintenance properly to avoid those fines and penalties. Both of these together, if we have less downtimes, what do we have? More production. If we have fewer compliance violations, what do we have? Less fines. Both of these together, improving your procedures and incorporating them within a system like MaintainX can make sure we remain as profitable as possible. We want to ensure we can increase our production revenue, and we want to make sure we can minimize those fines. Always bring it back to that why. This is why that should take our attention. So let's get into it. Creating procedures. Let's look at the reality of procedure management. Manually managing static procedures, like PDFs, paper copies, comes with some serious efficiency gaps. Firstly, creating new procedures and updating existing procedures can be time-consuming and error-prone. And keeping track of revisions for compliance is cumbersome, with long lead times to get the latest version of a procedure into technicians' hands. It's really difficult. Why does this matter? Well, firstly, operational excellence. Clear SOPs support competitive advantages in financial performance, resilience, and innovation. That is to say, companies with clear and well-managed SOPs perform better. Secondly, there's a trend overall towards digitization. As of 2023, digitization is the top trend among manufacturers as part of the broader Industry 4.0 movement. Broad trend to digitize there. Put these two together. Investing in procedure digitization helps you stay competitive. In this kind of macroeconomic climate we're in, staying competitive is the name of the game. SOPs, your procedures, is a huge component of that. The way you can think of a procedure, it might be, like we said, a PDF. It might be a paper copy. It's also, okay for now, if that's just something that's in someone's head. If we say, I need to perform maintenance on this compressor once every month, and so knows how to do it, they have steps, that's a procedure. It's not down, it's not written, it's not formalized as we want it to be, but that is a procedure as of yet. So creating procedures, poll again here. Of the SOPs you have, of the procedures that you perform at your facility, how many are digitized, including PDFs? So how many aren't just, written on a piece of paper or in someone's head? How many are actually in a digital format of any form? And we'll give you just a couple of minutes to respond to this here. Nice, there we go. We can share those results. Beautiful. So, a mix here. We've got a kind of reverse bell curve, if you will. Seems to be either we have most digitized or we have very few digitized. Don't worry, I will bear that in mind when we're going through it and give advice that can help both parties there. Let's translate this to MaintainX. Creating procedures. Here's MaintainX. This may be a screen that's very familiar for some of you, and it may be the first time you've seen it. Whichever state, don't you worry, we've got you covered. We're going to take a look in our procedures module. That is located in this left-hand side menu here. Underneath library, navigate to procedures. You can see in here, I have a fair amount of different procedures in here. That is to say, I have templates of how my work should be completed by my technicians. And you can see we have a wide variety of different field types in here, from checklists, yes, no, maybe fields. We have inspection checks. There could be date or time, text. Really, there's a lot that we can do in here. So how do we create one? There are 3 methods that I'll take you through today. All of them begin from new procedure template in this top right-hand corner. The first way, let's start from scratch. create from blank. If I click on this, I can give my procedure a name, and very imaginatively, I'm going to call this one test procedure. Nice and boring for you. I mentioned we have a variety of different field types. You can see those here. Checkbox, text field, number field, amount, multiple choice, checklist, inspection check, so on and so forth. The most commonly used fields, I would say, by my customers would be checkboxes or checklists. That can give you a fairly simple to-do list in here. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. We have different options. It will be an inspection check. This is huge. Run an inspection on a given machine or a given component and say, did it pass, did it flag, or did it fail? Another one would be a picture field. Often we want evidence of work done or we want to see an issue. You can insert an image within your procedure. Another one would be a meter reading field. So if you're using meters, could be, runtime hours, vibration, odometers, whatever it might be. And if we're recording those manually, we can pop that in here. Something super cool about this is you could leave it an open meter reading field. So your technician can select the relevant meter as they go if we want to be a bit more general. Or you can select the meter that will prompt them to put in the reading for that given piece of equipment. And finally in here, big on that compliance piece, we can have a signature block for your text to sign off on the go. Now we'll get into some more advanced features just a little bit later on here. But for now, I wanted to call attention to the fact that we can do some fun things in here. Namely, you can make this a required field. Any field you have in your procedure, you can make required. And you can tell it's required when it has this little red asterisk right here. What does that mean? Well, it means when our technician goes through and completes this procedure as part of their work order, they will not be able to finish that job without having filled out the entire field there. So I would have to have selected all 6 options in here. I would have had to select pass, flag, or fail. If I have it as a non-required field, when closing the work order, it will prompt them. Some fields have been missed. Do you want to go back and complete? But it won't make sure that they do so. So make sure for your essentials, you have required field. And for those optionals, make sure you just leave it by default as optional. I save my procedure there. And there we go. We have a procedure. We're ready to go. So that's method 1. We can create from scratch. But we're all very busy people, right? We might want to save some time. Take a look at this. Create procedures automatically. You can create a procedure template using AI with a prompt and even a reference file in here. So I'm going to call this make welder inspection. I can link my asset in here. There we go. I'm going to say this is an inspection. I'm going to say this is something we do daily. And I'm going to put some basic information in here. So I've said create a comprehensive inspection checklist for inspecting a MIG welder. This checklist should include fields to record wire feed speed measured in inches per minute and gas flow rate measured in cubic feet per hour. If you want to add more information in here, you can do so. The more detail you provide, the better this will be. And one thing you can even do if you want to take it a step further than I'm doing is you can attach a reference file. If you have a PDF or something in here, pop it in here. The AI will read it and will recreate that within MaintainX. It is incredibly cool. And what it does is it'll take just a few seconds in here and then it will begin to spit out some fields. So you see, even if I didn't have a procedure, right, even if I had nothing in place, it's in someone's head, they could just write down a vague overview and the system will spit something out. If I had a PDF, if I had a sheet of paper, I could have attached that and then it would have spit this out for me. Now, what's really cool in here is that this is really a basis for us to then go in and build on. We can make any edits we want to in here. So for example, I could change this and say, technician signature required. And I can make that a required field. I could decide I actually want to have, let's say, a multiple choice field in here and say, what should we put in? I'm just going to put in optional choice. Again, because I'm feeling very imaginative today, and we're going to have 1, 2, 3 options in here. I could even add in a checklist. I don't have a checklist on here. I feel most of my customers have a checklist on their inspection. So I'm going to put in a field and I'm going to say, here is my to-do list. So you see, you can really flesh it out and add more things in here. And at this point, I want to call attention to a few advanced features we have within procedures, namely organizing the procedure and looking at some conditional logic. When we get into really in-depth procedures, there might be quite a lot of fields in here, and this can be quite difficult for a technician to navigate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some sections. And I'm going to say this will be the sign-off portion of my work order. And I'm going to pull my signature into here. There we go. And get rid of this field because we don't need that. I'm going to put this in here because it's relevant. I might even add in another section and say this is going to be my inspection section. And I can quite easily reorder my sections in here. So I'm going to say inspection goes up to the top. There we go. And I'm going to pull my fields down into this section. There we go. Bye-bye. So I'm really in here just making sure that this is clear and organized for my team. And I don't need to worry too much about them struggling to find different components because I've grouped it into different sections, which will allow them to navigate easily to the component that is relevant for them. Beyond that, as I'm sure you know in practice, there are lots of different outcomes of a procedure, shall we say. You can start one thing and have it go in a completely different direction depending on the results that we're getting in. So what I want to draw attention to is that we can have multiple choice. What am I about? We can have conditional logic within here. That is to say, if option 1 occurs, do X, Y, and Z. If option 2 occurs, do A, B, and C. The way you do that is by adding a condition right here. And you can say, if the answer is point 1, we're going to make sure that we have a description. If our answer is number 2 or number 3, I'm going to say, I just want a checkbox for a confirmation. Whatever you would like in here. And again, that means only the required fields are showing for your technicians. They don't have to see things that aren't relevant to the work that they are completing. So you can get pretty in-depth with the procedures you have. In order to save time, you start with that AI basis and then you build on it to make a really in-depth procedure. Now, if you want to save even more time, let's pull our resources. You can access what we call the Global Procedure Library in much the same way. What is the Global Procedure Library? Well, the Global Procedure Library is just that. It's a library of procedures used by different MaintainX users that you can access at any time, and you can import them directly within your account. So to access that, just the same, we go to New Procedure Template and use a template. You'll search the Global Procedure Library. Within there, as you can see, we have hundreds, thousands even, of different procedures that you can review, see if it matches your equipment and your needs, and pull them directly into your account. So to recap, 3 methods: creating from blank, using a pre-built template, or generating using AI. Let's flip back. Best practices. Use different field types to add structure and control. Capture all necessary values from checklists to detailed measurements and signatures. Use the required setting on procedure fields to ensure all necessary steps are completed. Use AI to save time. Saving time is really the name of the game. We all know it. Combine your asset data, a static procedure file, and a prompt to create drafts of new procedures. We're not saying they're going to be perfect, but it provides you a basis to which you can add those finishing touches. And of course, import from MaintainX's Global Procedure Library. We're not in the business of reinventing the wheel. If there's a procedure that already exists that you're after, search in there and pull it right in, and you're good to go. Very exciting update here. We have a new feature, mobile procedure generation. So you can create procedures on the go using the MaintainX mobile app. Procedures can be created based on pictures and voice notes, keeping the entire process hands-free. In addition to the added convenience of being able to create those procedures on the go, you also have the ability to take pictures with your device's camera and transcribe a voice note as part of the prompt. So again, it really couldn't be easier at this point to generate a procedure. Just take a picture, tell it what you want it to do. You don't have to type a thing. And there we go, we have a procedure. Just a reminder before we hop on into those work orders, at the end of this session, we will be releasing $15, $25 gift cards. So make sure you stick around to the end and we'll see what we can do. All right, so taking a look here at procedures and work orders. The value of well-crafted procedures is shortchanged when they are separated from the records used to track work. So this means if we've got our work order on the one hand and our procedure is somewhere else over here in a different format, it's not exactly ideal. Proof of compliance is more difficult, firstly, when procedure adherence is siloed from work completion data. When we know this was completed or it wasn't completed, but we don't quite know how or what was done because that lives somewhere else, very difficult to prove we're compliant. Secondly, juggling SOPs and work orders as separate documents makes technicians' lives harder. It's a suboptimal experience when we have to, juggle two different things. If I have my work order on MaintainX, but I have to go over there because I've got to get the binder full of SOPs to open it and find the right one and then do my job. We're taking time, we're making it cumbersome, it's very difficult. And thirdly, there's no interplay between completing a step of a procedure and generating a corrective action. Again, we're going to be taking more time there. If they're not connected and something goes wrong, something hasn't been completed properly within that procedure or something has failed its inspection, we then have to go and manually create another work order. That's creating a duplication of work. We want to pull those things together to streamline. Once again, bringing this back to the why, we always have to bring it back to the why. The cost of non-compliance is pretty huge. As of 2024, the maximum OSHA violation penalty is $16,131 per violation. I don't know about you, but I'd quite like to keep that $16,131 in my pocket. We can mitigate this by making sure we couple our work orders with the proper instructions. We make sure those jobs are completed properly, and we make sure we have evidence to show that we did it properly. Technician sentiment is a large piece as well. It's often overlooked, unfortunately, but keeping track of paper documents becomes another task in and of itself for technicians. Your technicians are integral to executing and evolving any maintenance strategy. Anything that can be done to simplify their workflows should be done. So let's check who's still awake. Procedures and work orders. How do you currently connect your work orders with their associated procedures? Firstly, I don't use any standard operating procedures. I work purely from memory. Secondly, I use a physical copy of the standard operating procedure alongside my MaintainX work order. So like the example I gave, maybe I have my work order and I have a binder with procedures in it. Thirdly, I use a digital copy of the SOP, for example, a PDF alongside my MaintainX work order. That could be in separate systems, or it could be a PDF attached to your MaintainX work order. And fourth option here, I'm a pro, I'm using procedures within MaintainX. Give you just a second. All right, I'm excited. Let's see the results. There we go. Interesting. Quite a split here. So highest component, 39% using a digital copy alongside the work order. A third using procedures in MaintainX. Good job. Let's see if we can get you some more functionality. And about, let's call it another third-ish, either not using SOPs and working from memory or using physical copies. So we have about a third in the non-digital realm, and a third just over digitized, but not in the most optimal way, and about a third of you already using procedures. So let's see how we can bump everyone to using those procedures within MaintainX. And for those folks already using procedures, how do we make it better? All right, let's take a look into the system. So we made our procedure. I'm going to focus on this one right here, our MIG welder inspection. We have our procedure now. How do we link it to our work order? Well, you may have guessed it. We're going to go on the work orders tab. And we are going to create a work order with that procedure. So I'm going to go a new work order. And I'm going to say This is the inspection that we need to do. I'm going to say it's daily because I just do so many PMs. I can, as always, add in my picture. I can add in a description, and boom, here we go, procedure. I'm going to attach my relevant procedure. I can even preview it just to double check that we have this here. One quick call out, you will see create a new procedure here. You can create a procedure from in a work order, but flashes on. Please note, if you create a work order, a procedure within a work order, it's typically only for that work order and for that chain. It's not going to appear in your library. So should you decide you want to use that on a different work order, you're going to have issues. By default, please make your procedures within the library unless they are one-off. There we go. I've added in my procedure. I can add multiple procedures if relevant. If there are several things that need to be done, I can add them all in. I'm going to choose my assignee. It's going to be me. As I always tell you, I do everything around here. And I'm going to set in a due date. I'm going to say that's today. And I want this to repeat daily. This is my daily inspection, but not on a Sunday because that's my day off. Priority, I'm going to put this as low. I tend to recommend my customers use low for any recurring tasks so we can reserve medium for anything that's at risk of a safety incident or a downtime, and high for anything that is a safety incident or a downtime. I'm going to populate my asset data in here. And I'm even going to put in a category because I'm feeling fancy. There we go. And beautiful. There we go. We have our work order. So now completing the work order. Today, I'm going to show you how to complete the work order on the desktop, but what I want you to know is all of the functionality that I'm showing you here can be replicated beautifully on the mobile app. We have a native mobile app. It is fantastic. You even have offline mode on there. So if you have a procedure on the go, you can easily open up your work order and just the same thing, work through and complete it. So bear that in mind. We scroll down. And here we go, we have our inspection. So in a kind of abstract sense, I told you why we should have sections, ideally, within a procedure. Now we see this in practice. I have my two components here, my inspection component and my sign-off. If I was only responsible for the sign-off component, I can jump right to it. I don't have to spend time scrolling and trying to find exactly the right field. I can just come in here and click my section. That'll take me right there. I'm going to go through and I'm going to complete this work order. Let's say we actually had a failure here. We can add a picture or a file and even put in a note. I'm going to put in my meter reading, run through my to-do list. Again, another meter reading. Let's pretend these are the right one. And we're going to pretend that number is reasonable. This can pass. This can pass. And now we get to our sign-off section. Now you remember, we put in a conditional field here. So as you can see, we just have my multiple choice field here right now. But if I select the option, it's going to pop up that conditional field that we put in. And I could have put in 6 fields to go from there. You know, if we had option 1, it pops up 5 things to do. If we pop in option 2, it pops up 4 things to do. It's entirely your choice. Point being, I'm only seeing what's relevant to me based on the data I'm inputting as part of this procedure. Hopefully your technicians put in a lot more information than me. And there we go. We can sign off. Now what you'll see, it's wonderful, is that our signature fields will be named and dated in here. When we complete our work order, we'll be able to see this for any field within the procedure. So this is where the audit compliance comes in. Not only can I see what was done, but I can see who did it and when. Doesn't need to be just for the entire work order as a whole. For each component done, I can see who was responsible and when they did it. Now you'll note, we actually failed an inspection right here. When I complete my work order, here's the pop-up we'll get. There is one failure in this work order. Would you like to create a corrective action? Before I mentioned, it's entirely suboptimal to have our work orders and our procedures siloed because we're going to have to do the manual work of making another work order when something goes wrong. Within MaintainX, this will happen automatically. If there is a failure, we pop it in there and we create a corrective action. There we go. Take a look at this. It's an auto-generated work order. that shows me it's immediately a high priority, shows me there was a failure, links the original work order for a paperless paper trail, and even pops in another procedure so I'm able to check into that work, fix what needs to be fixed, and mark for in here. I'm going to say, yes, we passed that, we got it done. Now I can mark it as done. And there we go. So, best practices, just to recap. Embed your procedures in your work order. Couple your maintenance work orders with the relevant procedures to keep all task data in one place and to ensure the right SOP is always linked to the right job. We want to make sure our technicians are doing the correct procedure at the correct time on the correct piece of equipment. You can do that through your PM plan by linking your work orders and your procedures. Secondly, making procedures clear and easy to navigate for technicians. We want to use sections to allow technicians to quickly jump with that table of contents like we saw to the relevant part of a procedure. We want to use conditional logic to ensure technicians are only shown the steps that they need to see. Again, get rid of that noise, get rid of the fluff, make sure we are only looking at what we need to see. And finally, we can automate the creation of corrective action work orders. We can configure our work order settings so that corrective action work orders are created with or without a prompt. You can have it both ways. My account has it with a prompt. You can have it go through automatically when inspection check fields on procedures are flagged and or failed. Alrighty, a lot of information there. To recap, we've gone through creating a procedure. 3 different ways we can do that. We've gone through linking our procedures and our work orders. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, everything in MaintainX comes back to that reporting piece so we can get actionable, quantifiable data. Procedures can offer a valuable source of insight related to overall maintenance performance, but it's not exactly the easiest thing to report on typically. Several reasons why. Differentiating between technician adherence to process and genuine equipment issues is quite tricky. How do we know who's done something properly and when there's actually a problem with the equipment? Correlating procedures with work order throughput, also a little bit of an issue within there. And thirdly, manually keeping track of auditable details can be exceptionally difficult. It can be time consuming and it can be error prone. If we have those 2 things separate, how do we know what happened and when? How do we keep everything in one place? Your heads are going to be abuzz with information when it could all be consolidated in one quick place. Again, broken record over here, but come back to that why. Always come back to the why does this matter? Continuous improvement is a huge point. Without a clear understanding of where shortcomings are, it is impossible to drive site-wide improvements. Continuous improvement cannot start until you understand where the gaps and deficiencies are, whether that's equipment health, adherence to process, or both. Second point, audit readiness. Ineffective and poorly structured corrective and preventive action processes are the top reason for an ISO 9001 audit failure. Top reason. Knowing how to keep track of work order data, including procedure inputs, is integral to being audit ready at all times. Put those together and we should protect ourselves from this issue. I'm intrigued by this one. How do you currently measure technician adherence to your standard operating procedures? Answer honestly, there's no wrong answer here. Firstly, you don't. Secondly, anecdotally, you kind of know who does what and when. Or thirdly, are we using procedure scoring in MaintainX? Little known feature, very, very valuable. Give you a second just to have a think about that. Okay, let's take a look. I had a sneaking suspicion that this is what we would get. Mostly, I don't. And that's okay. You have so many priorities. If we're not doing it up till now, that's fine. We'll give you the tools. Anecdotally, that's great. We've got a good kind of grasp on the plant facility. Let's strengthen that. Let's solidify it and, put a system in place. And 5% of you using procedure scoring in MaintainX, I am impressed. I'm very impressed. Every time I show this to a customer, they are so pleasantly surprised that we have this feature. So I'm hoping I can share that with you folks today in just a second. Let's have a look at it. I'm going to hop back into my MaintainX screen right here. Let's start with procedure scoring. What is procedure scoring? Sounds great, but what is it? Well, Let's go back to our trusty inspection procedure right here. A lot of people don't notice it. Don't be embarrassed if you haven't. Right up here in the top right-hand corner, you have scoring. If we toggle this on, you'll see a lot of the fields will suddenly have a field score on them. You can choose how much you want each field to score to come up with a total sort of points value for the entire procedure. So by default, in an inspection check, if something passes, you get 2 points. If it flags, 1 point. If it fails, 0 points. For a to-do list, it's going to give 1 point for every point. But depending on what the actual content of your points is, you might want to change that, and you can absolutely do so. Multiple choice in here as well, similar thing. And any checkbox, let's say that's 4 points right there. For our whole procedure, this will total up into a max score. So here you can see we've got 20 as our max score. If we click on settings, what we can do is we can set a minimum score goal for a procedure. In my org, I'm going to say that that should be 50%. That means if we don't achieve 50% at these points, say if there's a lot of failures, if there's a lot of fields that aren't filled in, we might get below 50% here. If we get below 50% when that work order is marked as done, it will again prompt to create a corrective action because most likely something has gone wrong. There we go. I'll show you what this looks like in practice. I have a work order right here. I think has scoring on it. I'm going to scroll down. See, there we go. When we're using procedure scoring, you can always tell because on the procedure header bar, you'll see the score here. Right now, I've got 0 of 11 because I haven't done anything. As I go through and fill this out, you'll see that score will begin to update. There we go. Good going. 100%. Fabulous. Everything is completed. I'm going to mark this as done. And good news. You'll see the total up here. 100%. We're in the clear. Had it been below 50%, we'd have generated a corrective action. We already know what those look like. So that's great. Now we know on an individual work order basis, how well has that been completed? But how do we use this to drive that continuous improvement? Well, we're going to toggle here. We're going to change from our to-do view, which is the kind of base default view for your work orders, and we're going to switch into our table view. Now you'll see I have my procedure scores right here. I can filter in here for various different things. I could filter by asset, for example, if I just want to look at one given asset. There we go. What a lot of people don't know is that this table you see here, editable. You can change what you want to see. We go on the gear wheel, top right-hand corner. I'm able to change any of the fields I have in here. So make sure you add in procedure score and make sure you get rid of anything that isn't relevant to you. I'm actually going to add in here the recurrence because that's something that I want to see, and I'm going to apply it. And there we go. It's in. What I'm seeing in here is that we have a wide variety of different procedure scores here for the same asset. So I'm thinking, is something changed with the asset? Is it being completed better? What's going on? What I'm going to do is I'm going to order it by due date. There we go. And what I'm seeing overall is a positive trend over time. So we're trending in the right direction. This would indicate to me, I don't need to be too concerned about this. Most likely my team is improving on this procedure. Most likely my asset is in good health. If we were to see the opposite trend, we might make different assumptions. We might want to then do some deeper diving to figure out, is it a problem with the asset? If so, what's going wrong? Is it a problem with only half of that procedure being completed? If so, how can I educate my team? How can I grow their knowledge there? So procedure scoring, a hugely valuable tool to drive your continuous improvement. Beyond this, we of course have our entire reporting module. And we've recently added some more features in here as it pertains to procedures. Namely, you can filter by procedure in here, which you didn't used to be able to do. Again, super handy from that continuous improvement perspective. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in this one, but that one's new, so we'll put in another one as well. There we go. And that'll do. We're going to pretend that's all one procedure for now. A few different graphs that I will draw attention to in here as being helpful. Firstly, created versus completed. I'm looking at my one procedure, right? I probably want this hold pretty steady over time and know I'm completing a consistent amount of that PM. If we're dipping, why? If we're going up, why? Dig into that some more and figure out what's going on for your team. One handy way of finding more information would be using the status graph right here. If we're seeing a lot of work orders being skipped or cancelled, in our preventive maintenance plan, clutch the pearls. We want to find out why. Why are we doing that? We want to stick to our guidelines. We want to make sure we're completing them on time. It's being done properly to make sure we don't get that, what was it, $16,131 fine. If we have a lot that are on hold, maybe there's a bottleneck. Maybe something's going on with the team. Maybe we need to dig into that and clear something to make sure our team is able to do their jobs properly. If we've looked at our procedure score, it's not trending in a positive direction. And if we've looked at our created and completed, and it is getting done, and we've looked at our status, it's not stuck on hold, that may be we have a real problem with our asset. Place you can come to check that, this graph right here, completed with inspection check. What I can see in here is for that procedure, there were 186 inspection checks. All of them were completed. So I know my team is actually filling out those fields. It's not a problem with them filling out the work order. What I'm seeing is that I've never had any fails until now, and all of a sudden I've got 3. Again, bit of a problem. Something's going on with that asset. I need to dig in there. I need to look into it. I need to get it back on its feet, or I need to decide if it's worth replacing. You can use this to see any trends. Are we getting more red as we go in time on this graph? AKA, do we need to look into this as a problem? Or are we getting less? Is that resolving itself and we need to tell our team to keep doing what they're doing? Your procedures and your procedure scores give you an indication of when something is going well and when something is perhaps not going so well. It's an indication we need to do some more digging and change a process or change an asset. My final point I'd like to show you as it pertains to procedures and reporting, and I'm actually going to get rid of this one, and this one. There we go. It's actually somewhere you might not look very frequently. It's in export data. Again, with our filter on procedure here, so we know we're looking at just the data we want, we have a couple of different ways of exporting. One is via a CSV. You'll have a column for each procedure question and a column for its answer, so you can see that data. But in this case, it might be easier to actually see it via a PDF. So I'm going to export my data to a PDF, and I'm just going to say I want to see what was completed, or maybe what was completed and due. And I can choose here, do I want to see the full procedure? Do I want to see just a summary? Do I want to see flags and failures, or none? In this case, I'm going to say I want to see detailed, and that looks great. So I'm going to click export in here. It's thinking about it. It's pulling that data. And when it's done, we can open that up and we can take a look. There we go. Here are all of our work orders that we're using. That inspection looks like Zach has been hard at work getting this PM done in here. And we can see everything that was done. We can see our total flags and fails. We can see which checkboxes were completed. And again, we can dig in a little bit more to just make sure everything's being done properly. What you'll see, I mentioned before, your signature fields immediately, it's going to have your name and your timestamp on it. When we export in this way, every single field we have here, we can see when it was completed and by whom. Again, super valuable for that audit compliance. So that's a lot of information. I'm aware I'm giving you a lot of information here today. To recap that, best practices here, my recommendations to you. Firstly, use procedure scoring to evaluate adherence to process. Basically, simply put, use your procedure scoring to make sure everyone's doing stuff properly. Track how many fields are filled out, assign higher weights to fields that are more important to you, and then you'll be able to see this very quickly, very easily. Filter your reports by procedure to get SOP-specific insights. If you have a PM, most likely it's always going to be done with that same procedure. So that's where you can see the trends and identify any blocks, identify anything that may be causing a negative trend on work order performance. And thirdly, export your work orders in the detailed format to get procedure details. Really handy to see exactly what was done for a bunch of different procedures, maybe within the same chain, within the same thread. With those date, time, name stamps. This is essentially giving you a complete audit trail down to the task level. We all get terrified when auditors come to town. Maybe we don't need to. Maybe we can have that information ready for them to go. So this is the scariest bit for me. I think it's time for a live Q&A. So we're going to go through some of the questions that you folks have submitted. And one quick reminder before we do, at the end of this Q&A session is when you'll be able to get those gift cards. So stick around for that and watch me attempt to answer some of your most pressing questions. We have Zach here from our customer education team. I'll let him introduce himself and then we'll get cracking.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mary. Yeah, as Mary mentioned, I'm part of our customer education team here at MaintainX, and I have the privilege of teeing up some questions here for Mary. Not that she would be exhausted after 48 minutes of doing an in-depth deep dive on procedures. Let's lay on a few more here. Okay, so first couple of questions I have for you, Mary, pertain to the actual process of creating procedures. So let's say I'm creating a procedure. I know how I can add fields, but I want to add some additional instructions for the technicians filling out those fields just to give them a bit more guidance. Is there a way that I can add those instructions in the procedure?
Absolutely. So let's head into our procedure here. I'm going to edit this one. You can add any sort of task information in here. You could write that in, give them text to help them. One thing a lot of people miss, and that's A-okay, is you can attach a link right here or you can attach a file, and you can do that on each procedure step. I have a customer that, and you don't have to go this far, but it's very good. For each step in his procedure, he has a little video showing the person how to do it. So if there's any questions, there you go. They can watch it and they can get it done. So absolutely, yes, you can put in your how-tos for your procedures.
Hey, awesome. Related to updating procedures, let's say I'm in a procedure template and I make some edits to it. How is that going to affect technicians who are currently working on work orders that have that procedure attached?
Yeah, good question. So of course, we don't want to throw people off by making changes live and all of a sudden their work has changed when they're halfway through it. So what happens when you update a procedure within MaintainX, as you will do, you know, over time, you might want to make changes or tweaks, that's fine. When you make that change and you save it, it is going to update for any work order that is open, so that hasn't been started yet, or for any upcoming iteration of the work order. It will not change the procedure by default on work orders that are currently in progress. So it shouldn't affect your team one bit.
Okay, great. Oh, that's some awesome peace of mind. All right, shifting gears into some questions related to the interplay between procedures and work orders. If there's a flag or a failure on one of my procedures, is there a way that I can have it trigger a corrective action without prompting the technician? Because I might be worried that my technicians might skip or bypass the work order.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to go into settings and into features. Then we're going to go to work orders. And what we're going to do is scroll down. Can I find it? Where is it? Somewhere in here. Here we go. Procedures. Corrective actions on failures. I have mine as automatic with a prompt, but I could have it be automatic without a prompt, aka that corrective action is going to be generated no matter what when the work order is marked as done. It's not going to pop up that prompt that we saw. And you can do the same thing for flags as well. So have it be automatic without a prompt, automatic with a prompt, or if we don't actually want a corrective action for flags, because that's not how we do things at Mary's Maintenance Inc., that's fine. Change it to none. You have full discretion here.
Okay, awesome. That's some great configurability. Okay. I've got a long list of procedures at Mary's Maintenance Inc. because we have tons of pieces of equipment. Is there a way that I could filter my procedure list somehow so I could see procedures as they're mapped to my pieces of equipment?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good question. We basically want to ensure ease of use, I would say, and ease of access in this point. And absolutely, I have a few in here. Even so, it's annoying to scroll through. You can imagine when you have every single one of your SOPs documented, that would be an absolute pain when we're making a work order. So when we're making our procedure within settings, we're able to actually link it to a given asset. So in this case, I'm going to link it to the correct piece of equipment right here. Now, when I create a work order, if I attach my asset to that work order, when I try and attach a procedure, it's going to pop up the relevant procedures first. So it will boost this right to the top of the queue. So we don't have to do scrolling or searching. It's just right there and handy.
Nice. Great. Interconnectivity and taking advantage of, the fact that we can draw a lot of connections right within the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. This one should hopefully be a quick one, but to put my mind at ease, if I start filling out a procedure, but I don't get through it all, is it going to save my progress?
Yeah, totally. So it's live in there really. When I'm on my, let's take my inspection right here. I only have time right now to do these 3 fields. That's great. It's saved. It flips it into progress. And when I come back, they're still there. I can carry on as I was doing. And also, what's more important than that, I feel for a lot of people, is if you've done half of a task, but you haven't marked it as done, you don't want your supervisor or your manager to think, oh, they haven't done anything, right? With this, they'd be able to see, oh, they've done half of it before they got pulled away to go and address this issue. So yes, absolutely, it will stay there.
Excellent. All right. Bit more of a specific question here. Is there a way that I could include specific procedures for corrective action work orders?
Ooh, very good question. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to pull up in here a corrective action example. So this is what this looks like by default. It is customizable. If you wanted to change this very basic procedure we have on here, you know, what you do in case of a failure, maybe you have a standard operating procedure for failures internal. Absolutely. All you need to do is let us know, and we can configure that for you on the back end of the system.
Wow. Okay. So another world of opportunity when it comes to at least reaching out to MaintainX and
So
the world
much.
of extra bells and whistles they can add on the back. That's
Yeah,
great.
there's actually maybe one other point I can make in there quickly while it's top of mind as well. Not only can you change the procedure that you have on a corrective action, but you can choose if we have a procedure and it has 5 inspection check fields in it, and we have 3 failures from 5 of those inspection checks. You can decide if you want that to generate 3 individual corrective action work orders, or if you wanted to create one grouped corrective action work order. So again, something to think about, something we have the ability to change.
Wow. That was truly a buy one, get one of a question. Not only did you answer
Right?
my question, added a little cherry on top.
Bonus info.
Okay, a couple more questions for you, Mary. Is there a way that I can ensure that technicians don't remove or edit the procedures that are attached to their work orders?
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, I will say it's quite unusual that someone would, you know, go in to edit them. There's 2 things that we can actually do. If you're on our enterprise package, you can actually restrict people's ability to go in and edit the work order and change the procedure. We also have things related to, procedures, permissions related to procedures. So if you're on enterprise, please do reach out to us and we can figure out what the best configuration for you would be. We have a lot of flexibility there. It's great. If you don't want to get into custom permissions, or if you're on the premium or the essential plans, a great way to do this is actually by using work order templates. Now, a work order template is essentially a work order that's pre-populated with a lot of information, and you can choose what is shown and what is not shown. So if we have a procedure on here, I can make this read only. No one can change that out when they're using this template. So this may be helpful to you.
Okay, awesome. So options on enterprise, options on premium below as well. That's great.
Thanks for everyone.
All right, I've got one last question for you, Mary. This goes back to your final topic on reporting, procedure reporting. If I'm noticing a high amount of failures in my work orders on that completed with inspection check chart, what kind of insights and actions should I be looking to pull from what I'm seeing in that chart?
Okay, that is actually a really good question. So we want to look at the work that we're actually doing. We want to see How is that getting done? We want to see, is it that we're doing something slightly off and it's throwing that machine off? Is that machine at the end of its lifespan, and do we want to replace it? Is there a different team that could be assigned to this? Is there an update we could make to our procedure? Are we actually adhering to our manufacturing guidelines here? Really go in and ask yourself questions about not only your process that you're using, but that piece of equipment itself. Worst case, it's time to replace it. Best case, we make a slight tweak to our process and we're able to perform better, and we can see those scores begin to rise.
Wow. Okay. Lots of options. All right. That's all of the questions, Mary. I'll turn back to you to get back everyone out on time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Zach. So just to summarize here before we conclude, some key takeaways. Digitize your standard operating procedures to simplify procedure creation and maintenance. Save time creating procedures with the assistance of AI and the ability to import community source templates. Bring consistency to which values are recorded through the use of required fields, and publish updates to procedures with the click of a button. Remember, we have 3 ways of digitizing your SOPs. You can build one from scratch, you can use the AI tool to have a basis, and you can use the global procedure library. You can do that from mobile as well. Secondly, link your procedures and work orders to drive standardization and improve the technician experience. Use embedded procedures to ensure the proper instructions are always paired with each work order. Save time for technicians by making procedures easy to navigate, and automate your corrective action work orders for flagged and failed inspections. And finally, get procedure-specific insights through scoring, reports, and detailed exports. Engage in continuous improvement by tracking how much of each procedure is completed in order to diagnose issues with equipment and adherence to process. Zoom out to the report level to identify trends in work order data correlated to procedures, and export work order details down to the procedure field level as proof of compliance. A reminder, we have many different resources here. We have our Feature 101 session and our office hour webinars where you can learn live from a MaintainX product expert. That's me. Monthly for both of those, although a little reminder, office hours will be taking a pause for August. Little summer break will be back September the 5th. MaintainX Academy we have as well. You can learn at your own pace through certifications, guides, and courses, many videos, many helpful tips and tricks on there. And of course, the MaintainX community, where you can learn from other maintenance professionals through discussion boards. So thank you, folks. We've reached the end of this webinar. A little reminder here to fill out your 1-minute survey following the webinar. Your feedback helps to make these sessions the best they can be, and it's by filling out that survey that you will be able to get your $25 gift card. The first 15 people to complete the survey in full will receive a gift card, so get on that, get running through it. We'll post that link, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for attending, and we'll see you next time.